84 million people watched Sacred Riana's AGT audition. It was darker than what the cameras captured. The television went entirely black during her performance in the quarterfinals. Around her, staff members murmured about odd mishaps and equipment malfunctions. Some people wouldn't go into the rooms where she practiced. When the last person to address her by her true name passed away in 2023, her entire world fell apart. She completely collapsed and disappeared from the public eye. The startling reality of what fame had truly cost her was made clear by her 2024 Harif comeback. The world knows Marie Antoinette Riana Grani as the Sacred Riana. She was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, on July 13, 1992. Her life had never been normal from the minute she opened her eyes. Christian Yunarto, her father, was not your typical magician. Psychological illusions were his specialty. Applause was not his magic. It was meant to make people uneasy and make them wonder what was true. Growing up, Brianna saw him transform ordinary rooms into places where silence felt oppressive and shadows seemed alive. Every day, illusion and reality merged all around her. This bizarre realm was further fostered by Jakarta's rich traditions of mysticism and ghost stories. She was a living ghost story by the time she made her television debut. She combined psychological illusion, her father's gloomy art, and Indonesian culture in a disturbing way. The Sacred, a 2019 horror movie, depicted Rihanna's fictitious early years as unsettling as her actual one. Her family owned a funeral home in a little town in that story. Her dad was a coffin builder. Her mother got the corpses ready for burial. Little Rihanna was surrounded by death every single day. She wasn't afraid though. As though she knew the dead better than the living, the movie depicted her finding serenity among them. Then catastrophe hit. Her family took refuge in Jakarta. Her world became even more dismal as a result of this dislocation and loss of home. She would always carry the funeral home with its subdued sadness inside of her. It was evident in her slow, ritualistic gestures and unwavering gaze on stage. She developed into an artist who used magic to transform fear. Rihanna hardly ever participated in activities or conversations as a child. She was described as unnervingly perceptive. She would observe and reflect while standing in corners. Adults were rendered dumbfounded by the questions she posed about life and death. She found solace in ghost stories. She was drawn to cemeteries and dilapidated structures. She approached the darkness when other children fled from them. Her family was the first to notice. This was not a passing fad. She was this person. Horror served as an inspiration for Rihanna's stage persona. Her appearance, the long hair over her face, the white outfit, the quiet menace was influenced by Sadako, the ghost from the Japanese movie Ringu. Rihanna, however, contributed something fresh. She combined the magic of Darren Brown, Chris Angel, and David Copperfield with this terror. She chilled people with terror while they glistened with wonder. She didn't move at random. She spent hours hunting them through training. She appeared to be a broken doll because of her abrupt head jerk, slow blink, rigid puppet-like hands, and even her bent knee stance. It was all prearranged. For hours, she remained in character, never letting the illusion falter or conversing off stage. Rihanna the human and Rihanna the ghost started to blend together. Her doll, became her best friend. The doll wasn't merely a prop. It was dressed like Rihanna and had a blank expression. She had a chunk of it. There was discussion about what Rihanna meant when she remarked, "Ri protects me." According to some, the doll symbolized her lost youth. She once refused to perform until the doll was sent to her after it had been forgotten, even if it required sending someone across Jakarta at midnight. In a horrific universe she had created, the doll served as her fulcrum. Her voice, a quiet, quivering murmur that was neither entirely infantile nor entirely mature, was even designed to evoke fear. To get it perfect, she practiced for months. On stage, every word she said was significant. People shivered at the mere sound of it. The way she obliterated her former self, however, was possibly the most terrifying aspect of her story. She cleared out her social media accounts. There were no further images, posts, or indications of Marie Antoinette Riana Grani. Friends were taken aback. For Riana, however, it was essential Riana had to be more than a fictional character. She had to be real. People were unsure for years whether she was a phantom or a real person. Her legend was cemented by this deletion. She lost a piece of herself in the process, but she became famous. A memorable event occurred on Indonesian television on November 17, 2013, Marie Antoinette. Riana Grani, a young woman, entered the stage of The Next Mentalist, a magic competition. She would soon be recognized as the revered Riana. She appeared to have stepped out of a nightmare, with one knee bent, long untidy hair covering her face, and a doll named Riani always in her arms. As she performed, millions of people watched in disbelief, without saying a word, hardly moving, and maintaining that odd spectral appearance. At first, no one had high expectations of her, but she proved them all wrong. She came in second place. For someone so new and with such an odd flair, it was amazing. People started chatting about her eerie, silent act. Did she possess a genuinely supernatural quality, or was she merely a magician? By the time the event ended, Riana had generated a lot of interest. Later, more than 70 million people watched her videos online. However, she did not have an easy time behind the scenes. Many people in the entertainment industry didn't want to work with her after her initial high-profile performance. Her act was deemed too frightening for families by the producers. She was not shown at all on several TV networks. They were concerned about complaints from parents and religious organizations. She was advised to improve her behavior, or was dropped from at least 5 prominent shows. They hoped she would be less intimidating. They urged her to speak up more. They even advised her to apply makeup softer. Riana felt stuck. Her career appeared to be on the verge of ending before it had really begun. However, she persisted rather than giving up. She grew more adamant the more they sent her away. She gradually gained the respect of many who had before questioned her. What made Riana's life so difficult was also her greatest strength. She would never compromise her morals, not backstage, not on stage, nor in interviews. She was always the revered Riana. She murmured rather than spoke, even when the cameras were off. She refused to make eye contact. She continued to twitch in an odd way. People found it difficult to collaborate with her because of this. She refused to respond directly. Thus, some directors were forced to write notes. Because she would either remain mute or just respond with one word, some interviewers gave up. Even her crew claimed that it seemed as though Marie had vanished and that she constantly transformed into the revered Riana. In an attempt to maintain the mystery, she withdrew her true identity from public life and social media. Riana's life from 2013 to 2016 was anything but glamorous. She was having financial difficulties even as her name gained recognition. She frequently played for very little money at local shows or small parties. Keeping up her appearance was expensive. Her accessories, cosmetics, and costumes required ongoing attention. She occasionally had to decide between paying for necessities and spending money on her act. When she didn't have a job, her family helped. However, there were months in which she earned virtually nothing. She refused to alter her performance in order to obtain better employment, and the Indonesian magic scene didn't pay well. One day, she thought, it might be worthwhile to be true to herself. Her life became increasingly lonely over time. The distinction between Marie and the revered Riana became less clear. She never longer attended family gatherings. Outside of her performances, she hardly spoke. She seemed to have turned into a ghost, even to her closest friends. They compared it to attempting to contact someone who was no longer physically present. Riana had put her all into her role. Everyone was taken aback by the Sacred Riana's 2017 Asia's Got Talent audition. After airing in late 2017, it quickly gained popularity. She came across as a shaky, quiet girl. The majority of her face was hidden by her hair. The terror was increased by the ghostly doll she was holding. There was total quiet at the beginning of the play. Her movements were slow and eerie. The audience and judges were unable to turn away. She created bizarre illusions. One was a seemingly self-moving card trick. The end was the scariest part. She was pictured standing by Judge Angun, but Angun did not recall her presence. Angun appeared frightened. She even retreated in terror. The audition was viewed by more than 70 million people on YouTube and Facebook in a few weeks. One of the most watched Got Talent auditions ever was this one. It was dubbed the scariest act in the history of the show by viewers. Videos of Angun's actual dread went viral. The way Rihanna combined enchantment and horror captivated people worldwide. She wasn't the favorite going into the December 2017 grand finale. Everyone predicted that the Filipino dancing crew, DMX Convalinos, would prevail. Their enthusiasm and talent had delighted the judges and spectators. It appeared that even judges David Foster and Jay Park wanted the Filipino team to win. Then, however, something unexpected occurred. The holy Rihanna prevailed. All of this was made possible via public votes. She received the $100,000 grand prize. As the first horror performer to win a major international talent contest, she created history. Her supporters had banded together. The final featured 3 Filipino performers. Although it appeared that the Philippines would win, Rihanna's triumph altered public perceptions of what a talent show winner could be. The crowd had made a bold and unique choice. The story was rendered even odd by what transpired behind the scenes. The judges were genuinely terrified by Rihanna's performances. The most impacted was Anjan. She was consistently the target of Rihanna's attacks. She did eerie pranks and seances that were too real. Angun was not faking her terror. Occasionally, she backed away or fled the stage. She later said that following the performance, she experienced nightmares. The team frequently made jokes about Angun's need for consolation following each of Rihanna's performances. The fact that Rihanna never abandoned her persona added to the horror. She remained creepy and silent even when the cameras weren't rolling. Long after the acts ended, judges and crew were still apprehensive. Few people could forget the kind of fear that Rihanna had instilled. The world immediately took note. Her narrative was disseminated by the world's media within hours of her victory. Her social media following skyrocketed to millions. She was in high demand for bookings throughout the US, Europe, and Asia. She was eagerly anticipated by the event planners. She received offers to star in movies and television shows, as well as invitations to discussion shows and important events. Everywhere she traveled, according to her management, she remained true to herself. Fans were expecting the eerie girl they saw on TV, and she didn't want to let them down. She performed continually for months because of the enormous demand. She traveled to locations she had not been before. People all throughout the world were impacted by her blend of magic and terror. Sacred Riana's season 13 audition was one of the scariest episodes in America's Got Talent ever. More than 84 million people watched it online because it was so dramatic. With her uncanny gaze, Sacred Riana entered the stage. She hugged her eerie doll, twitched, and remained silent. As she walked over to the judges' table, the atmosphere felt heavy. Everyone was watching Melp. Rihanna began by displaying a newspaper clipping about a fatal fire. She then instructed Melp to select a killer from a collection of pictures of victims. Melp indicated one, and Rihanna snapped a Polaroid picture of her. Melby froze as the photo formed. Bob, the alleged murderer, appeared as a ghost in the picture behind her. He appeared to be observing her from a different planet. The crowd let out a gasp. Melby yelled in surprise. The picture became viral on the internet. Whether it was a camera trick or something more sinister was a topic of debate. This was one of the scariest acts ever seen on primetime television because of Rihanna's expressionless face and Melby's obvious terror. Simon Cowell's response was what made it even more memorable. During Rihanna's performance, Simon, who is not usually afraid, smashed his red buzzer. It wasn't because he detested it though. His expression was one of sheer fear. The act continued to develop. The tension, the hush, the Polaroid. Everyone was surprised by Simon's buzzer boom. Melby yelled, "Why did you do that?" The audience was startled. It shook the other judges as well. Judges rarely buzz because they are afraid rather than bored. Fans analyzed Simon's every action in the video as it went viral, attempting to determine whether he genuinely believed that anything strange was occurring. Rihanna's creepy legend was only strengthened by this. When she performed in the quarterfinals on August 21, 2018, things became more bizarre. This time, Rihanna employed ghostly doubles and voodoo dolls. The focal point of it all was Mel B. Right in the middle of a scream, the TV broadcast abruptly cut to black as the act intensified. At home, viewers gazed at their displays, perplexed. The adverts followed. Rihanna was absent when the show came back. The judges' remarks were strange and ambiguous. The blackout was not explained by anyone. Social media took off. Was there a technical issue? Either censorship or something much more sinister. The reality was revealed a few days later. Producers arranged the blackout to create excitement and heighten the frightful atmosphere of the play. It was successful. The incident became the season's most talked about event. The question of what was produced and what was real kept fans wondering. Even more discomfort was created behind the scenes by Sacred Riana's presence. Some crew members hesitated to be alone with her during rehearsals because they thought she was so eerie. She never wavered from her character. She didn't say anything. Even after the cameras were off, she continued to be jittery and unsettling. When she was near, people muttered of unusual malfunctions and eerie goosebumps. The lights wavered. Equipment malfunctioned. If she was in the rehearsal facility, some employees simply wouldn't let her in. Rihanna irritated them more than anyone else, according to even seasoned AGT pros. Her legend grew even more as a result of her backstage anxiety, but ultimately, it was insufficient. Sacred Riana lost in the quarterfinals on August 27, 2018. There weren't enough votes for her. Actors such as Duo Transcend outperformed her. The fans were taken aback. It was viewed by many as a setback to the show itself. According to insiders, Rihanna was disillusioned and devastated. Audiences who weren't prepared for her brand of horror magic misjudged her. The Sacred Riana made the transition from the global stage to the movie screen on March 14, 2019. This wasn't your average horror movie. The Sacred Riana was the first America's Got Talent contestant to appear in their own film. The unsettling tale of her early years was told by beginning. In a small village, Rihanna's family owned a funeral home. They relocated to Jakarta after the accident. Rihanna discovered an odd doll there, which she called Riani. Her only body was the doll. She avoided everyone and stopped attending school because she held on to it so tenaciously. Unusual events began to occur. Things became terrible after her teacher came to visit. It was unclear to viewers what was genuine and what was merely in Rihanna's head. The movie debuted in Indonesia. It eventually made its way to Singapore and Malaysia. Rihanna became a regional horror icon as well as a local star because to the film. The Holy Rihanna, 2 Bloody Mary, appeared on July 28, 2022. The terror was more intense this time. The narrative depicted Rihanna's frantic search for her misplaced doll within a scary girl's dormitory. The Vanderwijk Fortress in central Java, which has its own ghost stories, served as the location for the movie. There were more sophisticated special effects. The dread became more tangible. The most unsettling aspect, though, was how profoundly Rihanna was impacted by the role. On and off set, she consistently maintained her character. The crew and actors were concerned about her. They were concerned that the job was permanently altering her. The movie was a big hit. Her performance struck audiences in awe and filled cinemas. Following these movies, Rihanna took on a new task. She joined The Great Magician Show as a judge from December 2019 until March 2020. She didn't alter her eerie behavior, though. She made her renowned with her sluggish, rigid gestures and blank stare while she judged. She made minimal movements and spoke very little. The contestants experienced both fear and honor. They were unaware of the significance of her silence. The audience adored it. The ratings of the show increased. Everyone watched to see what she would do next. Rihanna continued after that. On Spotify, she launched a podcast titled Kisah Horror, The Sacred Riana. It got popular. She told spooky stories about herself and the myths that influenced her. She was whispering ghost stories into their ears, according to fans. Long after each episode concluded, the podcast continued to evoke unease in listeners. It was recognized as one of the best horror podcasts in Indonesia. Rihanna brought her live performance, Conjuring Live, to Kuala Lumpur in July 2023. The plenary hall was packed with more than 2,500 people. Items that formerly belonged to their deceased loved ones were requested to be brought. These were the things she employed to create her illusions. Tickets ranging in price from RM288 to RA688 were quickly sold out. She performed the same show in Singapore's Star Theatre in December. Every seat was occupied. A 12-part trip of life after death was presented to the audience. It was more than just a show. People began to doubt their beliefs about the spirit realm as a result. However, Rihanna was having difficulties despite her celebrity. By 2019, she was unable to distinguish Sacred Riana's boundaries, and her true self, Marie, started. It was dubbed dissociative identity tension by doctors. She was Sacred Riana every single day. She no longer went by her given name. She used the third person while describing herself. Her friends and relatives became concerned. She was becoming disconnected from her true self. She had worn her theatrical mask for so long that it had become a part of her, according to one doctor. In August 2023, everything fell apart for her. Her granddad suffered a stroke and passed away unexpectedly. The last person to still call her Marie was him. She was a young girl who liked magic, he recalled. She was deeply affected by his passing. For the remainder of the year, she canceled her performances. She shut her flat door and locked herself in. Her favorite doll was no longer able to console her. She ceased talking. She had no desire to perform. The thin barrier that separated Sacred Riana from the girl she once was ripped down by the tragedy. She suffered a complete breakdown by October. She ceased to speak and hardly moved. She received assistance from her colleagues. In the countryside, she checked herself into a private wellness clinic. Her whereabouts were unknown to her fans. She sat silently in the clinic, gazing at her reflection while holding her doll. She appeared disoriented, looking for the girl she used to be. She took a while to recuperate. For the first time in years, the clinic assisted her in removing the makeup and costume. It was liberating as well as depressing. In treatment, she employed magic tricks to rekindle her previous sense of joy. After doing a basic card trick for another patient in December, she shed tears and smiled. She was stronger when she left the facility in January 2024, but she was still confused about her true identity. The revered Rihanna was already well known throughout the world. She appeared on the stage of Britain's Got Talent, The Champions, on August 30, 2019. The entire globe was observing. This was the same talent who frightened millions of people on America's Got Talent in 2018 and won Asia's Got Talent in 2017. Over 70 million people had seen her performances online. It was anticipated that her spooky spell would silence judges once more. However, everyone was taken aback by what transpired. In the first round, she was eliminated. She was well known and had a large fan base, yet she never advanced. The fans were taken aback. The critics were perplexed. The audience's judges appeared unimpressed. Perhaps they had desired something fresh and distinctive. Her decline on the stage of the global talent show began that night. At one point, she was referred to as the most eerie act in Got Talent's history. Her early departure, however, now serves as a reminder of how swiftly celebrity may wane. In January 2023, Rihanna attempted to return. She went back to All Stars, America's Got Talent. Only 60 artists were invited back out of thousands. Her influence was evident from that alone. More than 84 million people viewed her initial audition in 2018. According to Simon Cowell himself, she was unforgettable. However, history was repeated. In the first round, she was eliminated. Howie Mandel acknowledged that throughout her performance, he was genuinely afraid. Fear, however, was insufficient. It appeared that the assessors were looking for more than dread. The magic that had seemed new now appeared old. It was evident from her elimination. Both the industry and the public had changed. she once again discovered that viral popularity is short-lived. Rihanna visited France in the fall of 2022. She was a remarkable talent that participated in La France, season 17. She made it to the semifinals this time, a significant victory in a nation with a reputation for harsh judges. Marianne James, one judge, was taken aback. She was hailed by the French press as exceptional. Even in France, her eerie illusions continued to captivate people. She hadn't been around as much. It was still a mystery. It demonstrated something significant. In one location, something that seems outdated may nevertheless feel fresh.